Marc Alessi. Hi, everyone. Marc Alessi with the Business Incubator Association of New York State. Thank you for joining our webinar today with Patty Rechberger, the head of the Innovation Fund at Fuzehub. Patty's here to tell us a bit more about the history of this fund and some of the upcoming opportunities. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, I see like one or two new names in the room. A little bit about the Business Incubator Association of New York State before I turn it over to Patty. We are a trade association comprised of 120 business incubators and accelerators across New York State. We've been around since 2006, where 15 incubators came together, trying to find ways to collaborate and grow the ecosystem. And I think that we've all seen an ecosystem that's become a whole lot more robust in New York State. We are the largest association of state association of incubators in the country. It's pretty remarkable when you look at some of the larger states that have a lot of incubators. They don't have this level of connectivity, and I think that is very powerful for New York State to see this level of collaboration amongst folks in the same field. And then as a trade association, our individual members have relationships with the economic development ecosystem. And then as an association, collectively, we do the same thing. So we do a lot of work with Fuzehub and have done a lot of work with Patty. But I think what you're going to learn today is that Fuzehub is doing an even deeper reach with some of their programming that might be more relevant to some of our members that might not make it to all the state programming that has happened thus far. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Patty so she can introduce herself and talk a little bit more about the programs.
Thank you very much, Mark. Thank you, everybody, for being here, for taking your lunchtime to meet with us and learn more about the programs at Fuzehub. I have some slides to share. So let me see. Are you seeing the entire presentation? Yep. Okay. How do I not?
We got it. We're good. We're good. Looks great.
Oh, okay. All right. So Fuzehub. Let's see. Did it move? Yes. Okay. All right. So Fuzehub is a manufacturing extension partnership center. And what that means is that we're part of a network that was created in the 80s by NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology at the federal level. Every state in the country has at least one MEP center. The main MEP center in New York is the Empire State Development, and then through NISTAR, the ESD's Division of Science, Technology, and Innovation, we're funded, and then so there's funding that comes from NIST, and then ESD matches some of that, and it funds 11 centers in New York State. Fuzehub is the statewide center, and then there are 10 economic region development. So New York State is divided into 10 economic regions for development purposes, and each of those regions has their own regional center. So that's just a little bit of background and where the funding comes from. And the purpose is to support manufacturers, but the definition of manufacturers is pretty broad. So historically, we have described it as long as you have a physical product, and that could be anything from a medical device to beer. And then in 2024, NIST updated the list to include things like computer systems. So, there's always been a question, incidentally, for medical devices, something that I get often asked. There's a new trend in the last few years to use software as medical device, and that was always in a gray area as far as eligibility for our programs. And I feel like with the new added codes from NIST, this is more obvious that we can work with software companies a little bit more. So, if you, as I talk about our programs and who they are for, who is eligible to apply to our programs, if you have questions in terms of specific eligibility, you can always reach out to us and ask. skipped one. Nope, that was right. So within Fuzehub, we have several programs to support manufacturing companies in New York State. Our main program, when Fuzehub was originally created, is called the Solutions Program. So I'm going to do a quick overview of the Solutions Program because that might be relevant to the companies you work with. I'm going to talk more in depth in this presentation about the Innovation Fund and all the funding opportunities for the companies you're working with. We also have events and training, which I'm going to touch base on as well. And finally, we have a marketing program for manufacturers. I am not going to delve deeply into this. Information is available on our website, and I'm going to have a bunch of links available on the last slide of this presentation. But basically, we tailor a lot of marketing services to manufacturers, everything from startups to well-established manufacturers, things like digital media, your print materials. If the company is going to be to a convention and they have a booth at a convention, we can do the materials for the booth and everything in between. And all of our programs are either free or subsidized. So there is a benefit to working with us as opposed to anybody else on the open market. All right, so as promised, the Solutions Program is Fuzehub's main program. This is a technical matchmaking. So it was created originally to connect manufacturers with what we call resources. And this is a network of over 70 organizations across New York State with specific expertise. This is a technical matchmaking program. So within that roster of 70 centers, we have what we call centers for advanced technology, several centers of excellence, innovation hotspots, and incubators. So some of it you may be familiar with the incubators that are considered hotspots and that are on this list. I assume that not everybody here is on this list. The Science and Technology Law Center at the Syracuse University, and finally all 11 MEP centers, which include Fuzehub itself. So any company that comes to us with a technical question, we can relate to any of these organizations, but over the years, we have expanded this list to include other resources that are not necessarily just these 70 centers. So we are also looking at doing more connections. For example, if a manufacturer is looking for a contract manufacturer or an OEM, we can connect, we can make those connections as well. We're always working at expanding our network in that regard and making relevant connections. And the types of requests we receive for this are everything from, I just had an idea and I think it's brilliant and I have no idea where to go from here, to I have a prototype and I need to test it or I need to bring it to market, all the way to I've been in business for decades and I want to improve my line, I want to automate my line, I want to improve my product, I want to cut costs, I need a supply chain connections. So, it's the entire plethora that you can think of technical needs that a manufacturer may have at any stage of development for the company. That said, we do get most of our requests from startups. Within the Solutions Program, we also have events and training. We have at least one event going on every month. Some of them are virtual, some of them are in person. They're generally industry focused. So we'll have an event that is for ag and food companies. We'll have a cybersecurity event. We'll have an event that is for microelectronics companies. So we try to play around with the industries, and we also move these events across the state when they are in person. So we do a lot of peer-to-peer networking during these events. We encourage that. So, participants can come as attendees. They can come and have a table to make connections there. They can sponsor our events. So depending on the stage of the company, they can come in different ways to participate and we get great feedback that there's a lot of value in participating in our events. And then annually, we have the New York State Innovation Summit. In 2023, it was in Saratoga Springs. In 2024, it's going to be in Syracuse. So we also moved that around. Over 500 attendees every year, hundreds of exhibitors. We try to highlight innovation going on in the state, keynote speakers. So that's our biggest event. And that's also when the commercialization competition finals happen. And I'm going to talk more about that in a minute or a few minutes. Okay, so now the funding part. So this is the program that I run, is the Jeff Lawrence Innovation Fund. The fund is mainly divided into 3 tracks. The manufacturing grants is our biggest main track. It happens twice a year. The commercialization competition is the next big track. It's once a year. And the innovation challenge is intermittent. It's fund depending. It's usually industry centric, where the other 2 are more generic. And I'm going to give you a lot of details about all of this. And please do ask questions about the tracks as we go through them. But generally, we've been funding over $1.5 million a year between the 3 tracks. The manufacturing grants is about $1 million a year, give or take, and the competition is about $500,000. So when we have the innovation challenges, is typically about $150,000 to $200,000 worth of awards in total, right? And this is divided, and I'll explain how they are divided. And I think I mentioned the innovation challenge is intermittent, right? So it's not every year. In 2018, we had a food and ag centric innovation challenge. It's usually industry specific. 2022, we had advanced materials. I do expect to have an innovation challenge in 2024. So I'm excited about that. I'll talk about that in a minute as well. The basics. This is what is true for applicants in all of our tracks in the Jeff Lawrence Innovation Fund. Every organization has to be physically in New York State. So I'm going to talk about how the manufacturing grants require a partnership with a not-for-profit. Both the not-for-profit and the manufacturer have to be in New York State. And for any of the tracks that don't require a partnership, where the startup, right, in this case, applies directly, they have to be in New York. But in the case, if they're working with a New York State incubator or accelerator, and they have residents, right, however you or your program works, we consider that working with you puts them in New York, because especially since COVID, this has also become a little more, convoluted, where people can be working remotely. I had founders from New York during COVID move far away, and so they're still considered to be in New York because they're working remotely. The company's still here, so it can go both ways. People can be moving to New York, or coming here just for business. So, and again, if there's a question of eligibility, just reach out and ask. Does somebody have a question?
Nope, I don't see.
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. All right, sorry. So between all the programs, the awards run from $15,000 to $150,000. I'll give you details of, how much is available at each track and typically how many awards we give away, but that's the range of awards we give away. And all of our applications are project centric. So the applicants must develop a project. If you're awarded, this is how you're spending the money. This is where you are now. This is where you're going to get. You spend the money that we awarded you, and you have 12 months to complete the project that you were awarded for. So this is true for all of our tracks. Now, did somebody have a question? Something dinged.
Nope.
Okay, sorry. All right, so stop me if somebody has a question.
You got it.
Okay, now for the specifics. We're going to start with the manufacturing grants. The manufacturing grants require a partnership between a not-for-profit and a manufacturing company. So anybody here today, if your incubator or accelerator is a not-for-profit, you are eligible to apply. You apply on behalf of the industry partner, which is the manufacturing company you're working with. That company may be in any stage of revenue or life or product development. So again, from napkin, idea on a napkin, all the way to already producing, everybody's eligible. This is the broader program we have. The manufacturing company must have an account with Dun & Bradstreet And in that account, in their profile, in the Embrace tree, they must have a NAICS code. If you don't know what that is, we can help you. We can help the manufacturer get it. It's not difficult. Walk you through the steps, and it's free. That's a requirement for all of our grants as well. In the manufacturing grants, when you apply, you choose the amount you're going for between $15,000 and $65,000. These numbers are new for 2024. We increased them from last year. So you tell us how big is your project, how much money you need, you give us a budget and your scope of work as part of your application. This is a true grant. You get the money, you do the work, and that's that. We don't need anything back. And for 2024, the 2 rounds are January 15th. So I'm opening around January 15th, and that's due February 14th. And then the second round starts April 15th and is due May 14th. If you apply for the first round and you're not awarded, you are eligible to try again on the second round, and you can ask for some feedback also to strengthen your application. But you can also apply, if you're not awarded on round 1, you can submit an application on round 2 that is completely different than the round 1. The rounds are completely independent. Now, if you are awarded, you can only get 1 manufacturing grants award a year, so then you're not eligible to reapply. New for 2024, I'm very excited about this. We changed the bulk of the application from paper, from all written stuff, to video. So there's now a video submission. It's up to 10 minutes. And this is how you explain to us what the project is, what the technology is, what's the product you're trying to develop. You introduce the organizations to us through the video. So if you're applying, I'm going to need you to go on video and go, hey, I'm Patty Rechberger, I'm with Fuzehub, we are the MEP Center, this is what we do. And then the industry partner that you're applying with will do the same. So you tell us who you are, you tell us what the product is, you tell it what, if you're awarded, where you are now, where's the award going to get you, and why are you working together? And this is very important. It's one of the best ways to strengthen your application. We don't want to see a pass-through, what we call a pass-through application, where the not-for-profit applies, but really they're just managing the money and they're not providing any services with it, because the main goal of the manufacturing grants is some kind of technical or expertise transfer, right? So in your case, you may or may not be industry specific, so you may have specific expertise that you're supporting the company with. But if you're a more agnostic incubator and it's mostly business development, well, that's also important for a startup. So there has to be some kind of synergy. So you got to support that. Why are you working together, and why is that important? A clear description of product or technology should go without saying, but it's incredible how the judges will read applications and they'll look at me and say, Patty, I have no idea what they're doing. So make sure you're clear. Sometimes we're too close to the technology and you think it's so obvious, but an outsider person reading it does not understand. I actually encourage people to, give it to somebody who is not familiar with your technology. I don't care if it's a relative or a neighbor or somebody you work with. Let them read it, let them watch it, let them tell you that they understand. We do want some level of technical information, of course, to understand the technology, but it has to be at a level that everybody can understand, because our judges, although they can be technical in different ways, they're generalists. We receive applications from any industry, and it's not possible for us to have judges that are experts in every industry, right? So make sure you're clear. And then the other way you can strengthen your application, because this is one of the scoring categories, and this is very important to us because this is how Fuzehub is funded. So we get scored on this, is economic impacts. Are you creating jobs? Are you retaining jobs? Are you creating or retaining sales? Is this going to get you to a position, or the companies you're working with, is going to get them to a position where they will be more attractive to further investments? This is a really big point for us, and so it's a big scoring point in all of our applications. So that's the manufacturing grants. That's twice a year, right? And we're done by May. The commercialization competition, the applications, the manufacturers apply directly. They don't need a partnership. This is a business competition, basically. They have to be pre-revenue. And what that means for us is that they must have not had more than $100,000 in sales in the life of the company. And they must have a prototype, at least a first iteration of what their product is. That said, it can be, further along, it can be multiple iterations along, but there must be a physical part of it already. Now, with the whole new computer systems included, I am not 100% sure how that's going to look like. So anybody working with companies that don't have a physical product, we can connect and figure out the eligibility specifics for that. So for this program, I typically give about a half a dozen awards. Last year was $50,000. This year is $60,000, and then one grand award of $150,000. The caveat with the competition is that it's technically an investment, as the awarded companies must sign a simple agreement for future equity. And if anybody has questions about that, we can talk about that as well. But if they are not ready or prepared to sign a SAFE, then they are not eligible for the award. The application period for the competition this year is set to open on July 8th. These numbers are not completely set in stone yet, but this is what I expect. Start July 8th, and they're due August 7th. Then we go through an internal process. We select 12 finalists, and those finalists pitch live in front of the judges and an audience during the New York State Innovation Summit. As I mentioned before, this year it will be at the On Center in Syracuse on October 28 and 29.
And Patty, we just have one question in the chat about whether your slides are available to.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can share them.
Great.
So what makes a strong competition application is, again, be clear about what the product or technology is. Make sure that a person who's never heard of it before understands what it is that you're trying to accomplish, what stage you're in, if you're awarded, where is this grant going to take you? What's your future plan for this product, right? The competition purpose is to get a product to market. So we need the whole timeline of where you are, what you've done, and where you're going to be. A strong customer discovery strengthens every application. If you make sure that the organizations you're working with have researched the market and made sure that there is an actual need for this product. A discussion about competition is often left out. Every product has a competition. So, and the judges will say, oh, they're kidding themselves thinking that there's no competition, or people don't mention it. And then the judges, if they're not familiar with the specific industry of the company applying, then they're left to wonder. I wonder if there's something else out there. And I have judges go to Amazon and find similar products and be like, and debunk the application. So not talking about competition weakens the application severely. And again, the economic impacts are always important in all of our applications. So the Innovation Challenge, we will have one this year. These are all the details I have this far. I don't know when you'll be open, and I don't have the details yet, but it'll be Microelectronics Center for this time around. It will be a grant, and it will open in late 2024. I don't know. In the past, the Innovation Challenge sometimes required a partnership. Sometimes it did not. I expect this one to require a partnership with a not-for-profit, but I'm not 100% sure. And the scoring categories yet to be defined. Generally speaking, so all the applications are project-based, and these are the ways you can spend the money in everything that is project-related, everything that is going to advance the project directly. So equipment, materials and supplies, engineering, design, direct expertise, personnel, anybody working on the project, with the caveat, executive pay is completely out of the table. So whether it's executive pay at a not-for-profit or at the industry partner. And I understand this is an issue. I get applications from startups, and there's usually it might be a one-person show, and the founder is the engineer developing the technology. Well, their time is not eligible under any of our programs. So It's a requirement of our funding, so take it as you will. I can't work around that at all. That said, also, if you use a lab, if you pay for the use of a lab, any project related travel, I get a lot of that. Customer discovery costs are eligible costs. Marketing is eligible under the competition. It's not eligible under the manufacturing grants. And then any other, specific costs related to your project, those are eligible. Ineligible costs are mainly everything that is overhead, administrative, management, all your executive personnel, all your rent, utilities, anything like that. There might be a small caveat in the, like, for example, rent. Office rent isn't eligible, but if it's a lab space you're paying rent on to develop the technology, to do the work, that can be eligible. So there's some gray area under that as well. Any travel that is not justified, we do require receipts for all of the travel, particularly for meals. We're not allowed to pay for alcohol. So any travel that is submitted without receipts, we cannot reimburse for. IP-related costs are generally kept out because they can creep up to the entire award. So we generally don't cover them. And professional costs like lawyers, accountants, anything like that, not part of it either. So I wanted to give you some examples of accelerators and incubators we worked with that have been awarded, that have done well. The Kaufman Center Tier Incubator was awarded along with Claw Industries for a project where they are using glass that is not getting recycled. They have a proprietary way to turn that into a substitute for cement in creating concrete. So that was a really successful project. Shout out to Kathy, as I promised. The Central New York Biotech Accelerator has been awarded by us multiple times. They have a project with Cath Buddy, which is developing a reusable catheter system that can be disinfected with use of UV light. The Long Island High Tech Incubator was awarded, I think, yes, that's the one with Werewolf, where they develop. No, I'm sorry, I'm mixing my accelerators. The Downstate, so that other logo is the Downstate Biotech Accelerator, were awarded last year with Werewolf, where they're developing fabric through the use of biotechnology. The fabric is colored at the front, right? So it's not an after process where the fabric gets colored. So I thought that was a very interesting project. And Lady got awarded with the Unique Electric Systems for was a battery related project. So, we have the description of these projects on our website if you want to take a look and get a sense of what organizations in your space are typically awarded for and what we're looking for. There are similar organizations that I feel like are worth mentioning that are not incubators or accelerators. But for example, the Brooklyn Navy Yard has a business support side of things, and they were awarded with ClickBike several years ago. And they developed this attachment to bicycles that turn your regular bicycle into an electric bicycle. And they've done amazing with that. So, there's a lot of space. I would really like, one of the main reasons that Marc and I had a conversation about having this webinar is that I really want to see more applications from accelerators and incubators, because I think you guys are developing tremendous technologies, and I'd like to see more of that come through and hopefully get awarded. So, and again, you can reach out to me at any point. We can have one-on-one discussions about, all the eligibility requirements, what makes a good project, any questions you have, what other opportunities are coming up. And I do suggest strongly that you subscribe to our newsletter, because that's the best way to know when funding rounds are becoming available.
That was fantastic. Thank you, Patty.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Now we'll open it up to questions. I have a question to get it started, maybe a few, but a little bit more information back to the eligibility of being a New York State company. So if there's a company from outside of New York State that wants to apply, whether it's another state, another country, if they apply, do they have to commit to just move to New York State should they win, or do they have to actually set up a subsidiary here or some kind of footprint before they apply.
Right, they actually have to prove that they're in New York State before they apply.
Would having a relationship with an incubator, where they have space at an incubator, or even if it's virtual space, that would enable them to apply?
Yes, typically we have allowed, even if it's virtual space, we have allowed for that because the strong connection with the incubator, and obviously they are getting a lot of other services, when they have space at an incubator that are New York centric. So we have allowed for that, yes. We might question, we might ask for additional documentation.
Sure.
In the case of subsidiaries, that can get tricky. And for the manufacturing grants, we're a little more accepting, if you will. For the competition, we might be a little stricter with the New York State presence because the company has to sign a safe.
Yeah.
So, for example, in 2023, I had a Canadian company with a subsidiary in New York apply. But then when it came time to sign the safe, there were issues with who signs the safe, right? The Canadian company didn't want to sign it, but then the subsidiary didn't have authority to sign it. So we have to really dissect all of that ahead of time before they can submit their application, make sure that everything is accounted for. So the two things, that they are in New York State, that we can prove somehow that they have a strong connection to New York State, and more so for the competition than the manufacturing grants. So for the manufacturing grants, if they have a virtual space at an incubator accelerator, they're pretty much good to go. For the competition, we probably have to have a more careful conversation.
Got it.
But that
And
answers your question.
my second question, and then I'll let people ask questions, is if a not-for-profit incubator has multiple companies that can apply, are they only allowed to apply for one, or can they apply for two or
Yes.
three? Can
Great
more than
question.
two win from the same not-for-profit, or?
Right. So each organization is only allowed to submit one application per round, right? So each incubator, everybody here, you can only submit one application. So you got to pick one company you're working with, and that's your project. If you are awarded, nobody's allowed to apply to another manufacturing grant. Now, the company you're working with is allowed to apply to the commercialization competition, and
Okay.
probably allowed to apply for the innovation challenge as well. We have recently created a cap on how much a manufacturer is allowed to be awarded from Fuzehub in their lifetime, and it's $250,000. So you can be awarded multiple times before you reach that cap. We have nobody has reached that cap yet, but a couple companies are close. That's why we thought, we want to spread the wealth. We want to support the incomers. Although we want to take any awarded company, obviously we want to take them as far as we can. And the relationship with Fuzehub does not end at the end of their project. We continue to support them. I continue to reach out. Do you need anything else? Do you now have a solutions program related, right? So we try to, it's a forever. I'll be forever in your hearts after we work together. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
We have a
Is
question.
that clear? Yeah.
We have a question in the chat that just came up.
Okay.
And it's if you're a not-for-profit local development corporation, would you qualify to put in an application for someone?
Yes. Generally, yes. Government agencies are not allowed. So I should say yes. It might need some clarification, right? So government agencies are not allowed, but the economic development agencies, in my experience, run the gamut as well, right? So sometimes they are government agencies, sometimes they're not. If they're private, then yes, as long as they're not for profit, yes.
Any other questions? You could also, raise your hand, and we could get you to come off of mute. We only use the chat function when there's a presenter actually actively presenting, so we don't interrupt them.
I think I can take my screen down now.
Okay.
There, so we can see, and now I can see the chat.
All right, so if we have no other questions, Patty, what I'd like to do is obviously we're going to announce it in the next upcoming newsletter, if we haven't, in our December newsletter as well. And I'd like to put links to the applications on our website directly to, to the Fuzehub website when those links are live. And we'll just keep trying to encourage our members to, find companies in their ranks that would benefit from this.
Yes,
And
please do. And anybody, if you have questions, if you are thinking of a company or maybe a few, even if you want a suggestion, Patty, I have 2 companies that might be a good fit. I'll be happy to look at them and give you my 2 cents. We leave it a lot up to the judge's discretion. So we try to do a good job of picking judges that are experts. I have been pretty pleased with the judges we've had. They are, all part of our community of economic development and some experts in different areas, business related and startup related, and some technical experts. So a lot is left to them, but I can tell you, historically what I've seen do well and what I've seen do poorly. So I can, so we can certainly welcome anybody here to reach out and have those conversations. The materials for the first round of manufacturing grants is available on our website. So Marc, I'll follow up with you and send you the link to that. So you can go and look at the guidelines, the requirements, what the scoring criteria is. And again, if you have any questions, please reach out. And we are planning, we did have a fun brainstorming session last night with the team at Fuzehub, and we're planning on putting out like a kind of a sample video so people know what we're asking for specifically, because this is not supposed to be like a pitch or anything. So we're going to have a little fun with it and give you an idea of what
this video change up is going to be interesting. I hope it. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. If there's no other questions.
Kathy asked about the date. So yeah, Kathy, the round 1 opens January 15 and closes February 14. And then round 2 is April through May, and I think it's similar. I think it's April 14 to May 15, or May 15 to April 14 here. I'm going back on my slides. So round 1 is January 15 to February 14. Round 2 is April 15 to May 14. My pleasure. All right.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Patty, thank you for your time. And
thank you for the opportunity.
Process.
Sounds good.
Take care.
You too. Bye.